Hey guys, it's Josh, and welcome back to the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad, your favorite podcast for learning how to balance between being a functional adult and a raging dumpster fire. Some days, heavy on the dumpster fire. Today, I am joined by Melissa Finley. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today. I know this is a little late for you. It's like kind of evening time where you're at, or on the East Coast. What part of that area are you in, actually? I don't think I asked.
I'm in Arlington. I'm a newer transplant from here. Actually, I'm originally from Montana, but I am now over here. I kind of like the East Coast, not gonna lie.
Yeah, Montana. Now that's a big move. But what kind of inspired that move?
So actually, just like actually segs one of the things. I was travel nursing for a while, and when I was doing my travels, I met my now husband in the area.
Okay.
And so
it's crazy when level hits you. You know, you don't see it coming, but just like that, you're in it.
You're in it, and to win it.
For the long haul. Okay, so we have a background in nursing. How did you go from nursing to this current space that you're in now?
So, because I was an ICU nurse, and I did that for like 13 years, and COVID definitely does a number to the heart, the brain, everything, and I just couldn't stay put. So I decided to see what did I gravitate to, what really did I want to do, and I tried out. I went to a coaching school online and got certified, and I really liked it. I really enjoy working with people still, right? I get to do things and help people in a different light than what I did when I was in the hospital. So I just found my calling in a different movement, but that's how I found my way. And then to go with like my husband, like I was been on both sides of the coin, right? I've had all the dumpster fires in my life, all of them, I swear to you. And then I really did some like work, and I found like this amazing husband of mine that oh my gosh, he's just so wonderful. And I really, really want to help people cross that path.
Now, this is something that I always find interesting, and it's something that a trope that you hear all the time. When you found him, were you looking, or had you just kind of like let your foot off the gas and he kind of just drifted into your life?
There was that, I feel like I was in that phase of like, I wasn't not looking, but I wasn't like
pursuing.
Yeah. I just wanted to see, like, I went on dates to see if anything would unfold in the right way. But I wasn't just like going to find the person. I was already like, I had that talk with myself for a little bit of like, I'm going to be single forever and I will live with that. But then I had to do some rewriting of my brain. But
I think we've all had that talk more than once. It's one of those things where in a moment you're like, it's been so long, or it's been forever. But then once you step outside that moment, you're like, I guess it wasn't that long. It wasn't really that bad.
It might have been long, and it still might have been bad, but I found
That's right. Listen, anything, what do they say? Anything good is worth waiting for, or something like that?
Great, yeah. Something to hold on to.
Exactly. Like, you know, if it was easy and you had it forever, you wouldn't really appreciate it. Now, I know as one of my coaching mottos is learning how to balance between being a raging dumpster fire and functional adult. Do you have any mottos or vision that kind of has driven your style of coaching?
Date smart and with your heart.
I like that. Right. See, when it rhymes, that's how you know it's good. You know, just because it's good doesn't mean it rhymes, but the rhyme is always an added bonus.
It just kind of like came out. And as I'm very big about intentional dating, and I feel like that's a good key to like navigating some of the world of that dating life. And so I'm like, well, it kind of goes hand in hand. You want to date smart, but you also want to use your heart because it is part of the process.
That's so true. And one thing that I find myself doing a lot that I've tried to work on, but it's one of those things, if you're not conscious about it, it could happen over and over again, is sometimes when you're too in your head about dating and you try to make it just ones and zeros, all binary, that you psych yourself out and you start to lose perspective on what you're actually looking for.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. It's so easy. Getting caught up in your head. It is so easy.
I say it's one of the most magical but scary places that I ever know.
I like that saying.
Yeah. I was like, the mind can be a scary Scary place. We spiral really quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
It can
A lot of
go.
back and forth. A lot of back and forth. Now, I usually ask people, are you currently partnered? But yes, you are. How long have you and your husband been together?
Because we got married twice. So yes, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
We got married 2 years ago, the first time in October. We got married in Montana. My family's from there. And it was still pretty COVID-y, so small. His family's from Turkey. So on our 1 year anniversary, we had a wedding over in Turkey.
That is amazing. I don't know what I was picturing in my head. I was like, 2 weddings, but it was nothing as grand as that. Turkey beautiful? I haven't made it over there. I know.
It is to be completely honest, wasn't really on my bucket list before him to
Mhm.
travel, but it is beautiful. The people are kind. The food is amazing.
Yeah.
It's a great country to visit.
I spent some time in Prague and they're like, you have to go to Turkey. And I was like, you don't hear about it too often, but
On the Mediterranean Sea, so it's
yeah.
oh, that was beautiful.
2024, we're at it. The Bachelor pad's going to Turkey.
Yeah. The good spots. Not all the good spots.
100. You can believe I'm going to hit you up and be like, hey, I just need a few good spots, a few good suggestions because we love to eat. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. You've had all the dumpster fires when it's comes to dating until you found your current partner. What is the biggest trap that you've noticed that either yourself or some of the people that you've worked with fall into or gravitate towards?
I really feel like there's a lot of the chemistry is compatibility. I
Okay.
really feel a lot of us do this. Like, oh my gosh, we hit it off. My pulse is racing. Like, they're good looking. We have that instant attraction. And then when we do that, we forego of like, are we going to work out in the long run? We think this is going to hold it. And we also ignore red flags when we do this. I've noticed I had like a few clients that have done that. I've done that myself personally, where you think it's just going to be great. And red flags and compatibility. I had a girl, because she didn't want to talk about it, she thought the chemistry was so great. She wanted kids, and they didn't discuss anything for almost 6 months, and he didn't want them.
And it's so hard, especially early on in a relationship, because you don't want to smother it. You want to enjoy it and just let it be what it is for the time. But before you know it, time moves pretty quickly. And you're right. You can be 6 months, 8 months, a year in, and you haven't had some of those deeper conversations that you need to have in order for longevity. But also, I feel like sometimes in those scenarios, we can get in our own way because we're a little scared to ask.
Yeah.
As much as we don't think about it, I feel like we're equally scared to ask certain questions.
Yes, because you feel like that, like even like especially in like her case, she thought that that person will think of her weirdly for talking about kids so soon, and she's like, well, it's like an important goal, but. So she's been working on moving away from like waiting so long. I mean, obviously you don't want to be first date, gazillion compatibility questions. That'll be a little over the top.
I 100% agree with that. But also, I think I'm at this stage in my life where I'm all about efficiency and why drag this out. Because I think definitely within the first 2 to 3 dates, I'm bringing up the big stuff: kids, religion, careers, because that's a big thing for some people. Some people are really career oriented when they're young, or when they're older. They're like, well, I don't want to get married or until I'm at this point in my career or this point in my life. And I was like, well, what are some really big moments some things that you have coming up in your life? Because if they don't really resonate or track with where I'm going or where I want to go to, then what do we need to keep dating for?
Absolutely.
Or going on dates. Sorry, I'm going to say those two things are not mutually exclusive.
Very true. That's very awesome that you are doing that, like that you're willing to have those conversations. As you said, like people can get in their head and not want to do that up front. And so much time goes by and everybody thinks everything's hunky-dory.
And I was like, I hate blindsiding people, but I can say I'm currently in this situation myself, is that people really do have different perspectives. How you perceive a relationship, how it's going, is completely different than your partner at times. This is nice. I'm going to give you my situation, and then I would love to hear your perspective on it. Okay, so I've been seeing this person for 4 to 6 months, but not regularly. It's kind of intermittent. We have kind of different schedules that always don't sync up. We've probably been on like 4, maybe 5 dates. And I was like, you know what? I don't think this is working for me. There were just some things that I was missing. And I was like, well, I feel like these are standard for relationships. So she's probably feeling the same way. And so I was like, well, let's meet up and talk about it. But when I expressed, hey, I'm missing things and I don't think this is really the right relationship, she's like, oh no, things are great. Like this, I like this. This is, okay, we're in a good spot. And then like I explained my side, she explained her side. We were hearing the same things, but it wasn't connecting. I was like, well, we go on a date every 2 months. We only talk every other week, if that. Like we'll go 2 or 3 weeks and not talk to each other. We haven't been to either person's place. We usually split the check or we take turns paying for the check. And we haven't been intimate. To me, that's like a friendship, not a relationship.
I would completely agree on that. And it sounds like maybe if she's okay with it, maybe that is what she's looking for. And that's like one of those things. Like maybe she's completely cool because she's happy in that space. But if you want more, that is A-okay too.
It's so funny because I started asking this question more is like, what is casual dating? Because she was like, no, we're dating like casually, but we're still dating. And I was like, but are we though? Because I was like, if you describe what we're doing, I was like, it doesn't feel like a romantic component at all. And some things, and this is really big for everybody listening, I guess, you don't know how intimate they are with you get involved. So for me, I went to a work event with her, but she was like, that was really big for me because I've never taken anybody to meet any of my friends, whether they're personal or work. So the fact that I did that for you meant that I was really interested. But to me, I was so nonchalant and floating around the space that I didn't think about it. So for her, I was like, that was a really big step. But for me, I was just like, it was just a soccer game, you know?
Yeah.
But that's something that I feel like a lot of people may not understand. Because I always notice there's this huge disconnect between men and women sometimes. It's like your partner doesn't feel heard in a situation. You repeated back what I said, like, you heard me. Why don't you understand me? Mm-hmm. And I think the first time I've genuinely been in a situation where I feel like my partner heard me, but she didn't understand me. And vice versa. Like I hear what she's saying, but it doesn't compute. And so it's not till I think we start to learn like, well, what have you done in your past relationships? You know, oh, you're very kind of close to the heart, tight lips. You don't share or bring a lot of people around. So just that small gesture was massive. And had I known that, I think I would have acted differently or maybe even refused the offer. You know, because to me, I didn't think that I'm being presented into your friend group as your person. To me, I just thought, oh, this is just a date or, you know, just like a casual thing.
Right, which makes sense. And I think it just goes to show again, like how important communication is. Like you can like say things and people can like hear things, but they don't hear what you're saying. I feel like I've had like a couple examples, like I even like use like, because communication obviously is a big part of dating and relationships and being clear, like boundaries or all the things that have to happen with communication. Excuse me. And something as simple as if I told you to describe a dog, it won't be the same dog I'm thinking of describing.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, we're talking about a dog.
Right. I was like, there'll be a lot of things in common that like meet the quote unquote criteria for a dog, but you're right. The specific dog you're thinking of is not going to be the specific dog I'm thinking of, or the person sitting right next to us.
So it's just like that. I feel like we've never given the best communication skills growing up, most of us anyway. Like I feel like we can communicate, but like how we can communicate well or even better. And like that's like part of the whole process of doing that.
And I think, and this is one thing I've realized just starting to interact more with my parents as I have been an adult, is for so long, we never question them, or we know that we just understand hierarchy. And that's, so a lot of times when we're told something, we just accept it and as fact and just go along with it. But I think little kids have it right. They're always like, why? But how come? Asking those questions, really trying to understand where a person is coming from and to try to get into their shoes. I think that's the thing that we're missing, or can take good communication to great communication.
Yes.
And that's what we're all about. I think that's what any good relationship needs. You don't want a C+ relationship. At least I don't want a C+ relationship. If you're fine with like average or a little above, that's okay. But I want an excellent relationship, top tier. And you're right. Chemistry is a huge part of that. I guess there are certain aspects of chemistry that are more important. For some people, attraction is the end all be all. But I was like, no, I think personality plays into it. Emotional compatibility. Like if you can't understand how I'm feeling, sometimes then that also that spells like the downfall potentially of our relationship. Is because we're going to spend so much time going back and forth on, or just me feeling like my needs aren't being met, or I'm unwanted because that chemistry is not there.
Yeah, and like the other thing with chemistry is it has to be like, it's great in the beginning. All those, we got the science to prove it. All those endorphins and dopamine and oxytocin's rushing, but it can't sustain. That's why there's the honeymoon phase, right? This is why we lose the honeymoon phase, and you have to actually work on keeping that chemistry with like date nights and stuff like that in the future. But if you can't agree on simple things of like shared values or a 5-year plan, like there is just like no way a relationship can get past the chemistry healthily.
We live in such a society. 2 things that we hate doing. We hate failing, and we hate giving up. And sure, they're related. I was like, they're like, well, if I don't give up, I haven't failed yet. That's a great mindset to have for some things. A relationship is not one of them, because no matter how many times you try to fit that square into a little triangle hole, it's just not going to work. I was like, you're going to end up breaking your toy or breaking the relationship even more if you don't realize that.
And it's even like I've known a couple couples actually who stick it together for the kids. Like as soon as the kids are out, we're getting a divorce. Like we're gonna hang in there for the kiddos and whatnot, and they sleep in separate bedrooms. They fight all the time, and like that also shows to your children what a normal relationship is.
So one of my biggest things is everybody talks about their first love, and I was like, so many times we miss what our actual first love is. It's not the one we have with our elementary school, preschool, or like high school like partner. It's our parents. So the relationship that they have and that we have with them pretty much forms how we'll look at or what we think is normal in a relationship.
Absolutely. Because what do you think it's normal, right? This is what you're growing up. This is what's being portrayed. Like whatever the mindset that they have and they bring to the table, you're going to be like, oh, okay, this is the way it's supposed to be. They say that you learn like most of your habits and behaviors like by 5 years of age.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
One of the things I feel like we are not aware of as we continue to age is how to heal that inner child. I think it's misguided because we keep trying to heal, or we're like, what would 5-year-old us have wanted or needed in a situation? And that's not the right question. The question is, what do I need right now? Because I was like, if I'm trying to use 5-year-old logic in an adult situation with adult feelings, it's not going to compute. It's like I was like, would you give your toddler a black card and just be like, go crazy? No, they buy a bunch of like candy or weird expensive stuff that they don't need and we can't afford. And I feel like we do that ourselves in the moment. We're just like, I want to do this. I want to get this because this is what, this means I'm going to be successful, or this means that I'm going to have all the right tools. I was like, we have to exercise some restraint. We have to really reflect on our actions, because I was like, am I doing this because it's what I've always done or what is expected, or am I doing this because it's something I really want, or it makes me happy.
And I think that like even goes to so, like with all of this, like even with like the chemistry compatibility, it's getting to know yourself. Like that is so important. It's actually one of the things I wanted to bring up is like this is where self-awareness makes success into a relationship, into dating world, any of it. Like, you know, like if you are aware of what you want, who you are, and what you need in life, it helps set you up for who you're going to be with.
And that's so true. Like I said, we are often fed this idea of fairy tale endings or white picket fences without really painting that picture for ourselves. It's fine if you want to use that as a guide, but what does this mean for you? Because you're not going to have the exact relationship you see on How I Met Your Mother or any other show that you've watched. You're going to have your relationship. So you need to know, to me, do I really care about having a white picket fence? Am I okay with a chain fence? Do I even want a house? A yard work? Is that something I'm interested in? I was like, no, those premises are still there. You want a place that is yours and that you're happy and you feel comfortable about. Same with the family or like whatever ideals are important to you. But I don't think we really spend a lot of time on the actual detail. We're just like, this is kind of the broad strokes of it. Good enough.
I actually have like one of my sections that I have clients work with is like finding their own personal values. And I have to tell you, like every single one of them, it takes them a little bit longer and they kind of struggle through that. And then they have to like, I have them do like their values and their goals. And I think it's and desires. And that's actually one of the harder like little sections for them that they have to roll through.
And I guarantee that like when you first tell them that, they're like, oh, like it's easier. Like, okay. But then they, like you said, it takes them so much time because we've never really been asked. Sure, they ask you, what do you want? Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's always this but at the end of that. What do you want? But like something reasonable. Like when we're younger and we ask, hey, Mom, can we go to Olive Garden or, to this restaurant or that restaurant? And they're like, let's get something more affordable. Like you don't really, no, we're not going to Olive Garden. We can get McDonald's, the good old tried and true McDonald's. But I feel like we always have anytime somebody asks us, what do we want? It's always through that gaze. We're like, well, I'm going to try to be reasonable. I was like, no. If you didn't have to be reasonable and you sat down and you had a genie, like a magic lamp right now, and whatever you specifically desired and you asked for, you could get, what would that be? And that's hard.
It is. You have to do some like real thinking. Like I think like even before, because of course I've like gone through a lot of these exercises.
If I say I want to travel more, do you want to travel where I want to travel? Like the biggest thing, are you even a warm climate person, a cool climate person? Do you like indoor or outdoor activities? Like even those little differences people don't really think about. They're like, oh yeah, we both love to travel. But you guys like to travel opposite places.
Right, that or even the action-packed travelers or the lounge travelers. We got those mixes too. Like, there's all sorts of travel. Van life travel, hotel life travel.
Yes. Cool. I was like, you need to keep making this upside down pyramid. I was like, you started with this big concept of traveling. Now keep narrowing it down until you actually have the most finite or detailed version of what you think traveling is and what you want to accomplish on your travels. Yeah. And that applies to dating too. Well, it's like, I want a good man. I want a good woman. Okay. What is a good woman to you? What is a good partner? What are things you look for? What's important to you? Did you think about height? I was like, all these things are things that people don't think about. And they're like, oh, I'll just decide that. Or like when I cross that bridge or when I find it, I'll know. I was like, no. I was like, that is not the case.
That's how you end up dating somebody that you're like, what am I doing 6 months down the road? What am I doing?
How did we get here? Like it looked so good. I was like, well, I mean, a lot of things look good on the wrapper, but I was like, did you read the ingredients? No, you didn't. You just kind of grabbed it.
American cheese.
Some people love their craft singles and they're like, I'll die on that hill. I was like, okay, if that's what you want, it's your body. Your life.
I think that's like another thing that go with like dating. Like I think we just like think it's just gonna happen. it's just going to work out. Like, it's going to work out well too. Like, there's not going to be much fighting. We're just going to always get along. And there's this like conception of all that too. Like, just makes me think of that. Like, just like, oh yeah, like that was good. It takes a little bit more.
I guess I kind of touched on that earlier. It leads us to what now? We think, oh, I just want this thing. Okay, well, you got your thing. Now, what are you going to do with it? Like, I was like, ooh, I want a puppy. Okay, you get your puppy. Now what? You gotta clean it. You gotta feed it. You gotta raise it. Like, you don't just get it for a day and take it back. Nope. I was like, it's a commitment. You gotta do some more. You gotta put some work into it.
Absolutely.
Now that's the situation where you can't be like, oh, I failed. I was like, no. I was like, you got to keep showing up every day and doing the work. Once again, if you're showing up and doing work and you're not making any progress, that's when it's okay to, throw the towel in a relationship. Because as much as we say we're hard workers, I feel like sometimes we do throw the towel in a little too early in relationships.
Yeah, I think that can happen, that we throw it in too early. But it also, like, I feel like there's a fine line with that too. I feel like this happens where we work so hard also at a relationship or dating, and then the other person isn't doing that part, right? So it ends up being a one-sided involvement. And I feel like, because it goes back to where you're like going back where you're like, you don't quit, you keep at it, you work hard, but there also has to be dual.
Right. I've learned this because I've done a couple other workshops with other coaches or gone to some conferences and stuff. And I'm a huge advocate for therapy. Like I've been in and out of therapy for years.
Me too.
People like, I want a 50-50 relationship. I'll never say I want a 50-50 relationship because we're human. Sometimes we don't have our 50 to give. So when I'm a little short, I might need a little extra from you. Absolutely. And vice versa. And that's what I want. I was like, I want an equal partnership, but not necessarily 50-50 effort. Because like we all have those days, or we all start at different checkpoints. So if I'm at state, if let's just say relationships are a 12-step program. If I'm on step 2 and you're on step 10, it's unrealistic for me to ask you or expect you to perform at the same level that I'm at right now. So I was like, I have to give you grace. I have to help you reach this step, and then we can progress together.
Yes. I like how you put that. I was thinking there's some, I saw something that was really nice of the battery level. Like somebody comes in, I'm at 20% today. I just can't, there's nothing left on my battery. And the other person be like, all right, I got it. Tonight I'm doing dinner, or tonight, whatever you need done.
Exactly.
Handheld, you need to have to talk to me, whatever it is, I'm here for you.
And like I said, to me, that's what I call an equal partnership. I'm not going to say they get it wrong, but they just haven't spent enough time thinking about hey, what is a good partner to me, for me? But they'll see it. They'll be like, I want that. But what is that? What does that look like? What about that do you want? What made you want that? Because just knowing what you want and not the why behind it sometimes is dangerous. Because I was like, just because you see a science experiment or a magic trick happen doesn't mean you can pull it off yourself. As I say, don't try this at home. If you have not been taught you're not don't try this at home. Sometimes that's the same with dating. Don't try it at home. Spend some time, work on it, practice it before you just grab a sword and try to cut somebody in half.
Just some sword swallowing.
Yeah. I was like, that's an awkward conversation to have. Well, how'd you get here? Well, I saw this on America's Got Talent, and I felt like I could do it too.
Oh, that's great.
It's like I said, you got to have some fun. You got to have some fun. I love analogies. I'm a big analogy guy. I think I have one for almost everything.
That's awesome. They're fun. I do like them too.
Thank you. Well, this is the fun part of my show. Okay. This is what I call the quickie questions. And I've been told that men aren't the only ones who like quickies, so I'm going to do one with you too. But it's just, I don't want you to think too much about this. That's part of the experience. Just not quite rapid fire, but off the dome. Okay. Now, some of these are tried and true. Some of them are new. If you guys are just now tuning in for the first time ever, they're all going to be new to you, and you're going to love it. If not, I can 100% guess that you guys are going to know at least 3 of these. So one that I always like to start with is, what is something that you look for in a partner? I know you found your person, but when you were looking, what was something big for you?
Something big for me was actually, because I dated the complete opposite, was somebody who can communicate emotional availability. That was like so big for me, to have somebody who can talk about their feelings.
Yeah. I can complete. What is a red flag that was automatic? Oh no, I got to turn around right now.
I mean, there's a few of those. Manipulation.
You don't even have to explain that one. I was like, you know what? Yes.
Oh, yeah, throw in a little gaslighting. That's fun.
I mean, before we had electricity, all we had was gaslighting. So no. I was like, but we're just a little, not a lot. Just a little, just a healthy amount. To me, I feel like we don't always take the time to appreciate the little things in a relationship. So this is where the question comes from. What is the best compliment that you have ever been given in your life?
It's hard. My husband, he's great at complimenting. I'm trying to think of my favorite one. I think there's just been times that he's felt heard, and I try really hard to make sure he's felt heard. And sometimes, it doesn't always work. I'm always my own work project too. And when he's like, thank you for listening to me and being there for me and not being upset about anything, I appreciate that. And I think that's just a great compliment, to know that I can be there for him also, in the sense he sees it, right? I know I'm there for him. I know in my head I'm doing all the things, but when he sees it and says it, it's a great thing to hear.
I mean, that's fundamental. There's not a better feeling than that feeling of being appreciated. So that compliment in itself, just thank you for being there, shows that. Like I said, so often we take things for granted, or this person's always going to do this for me, or they've done it for me 3 or 4 times. It's just their standard. It doesn't matter if that's their standard. It's something they didn't have to do, and it's something that you do for him. So that's a good one.
Yeah, we like to do we do a weekly check-in, and gratitude. We call it a gratitude date, where we'll say something we're grateful for, just to be but we're pretty good in general, just trying to compliment each other in a grateful way.
I think that's a really good idea for a lot of people. Not something that I've thought about or talked about with my clients, but I might incorporate it, because especially for my people that I work with who aren't in new relationships. Because you said once that honeymoon stage is over, that's when the real work begins, I feel like. So incorporating that gratitude date is a good way to just remember, hey, here's what I'm working for. Here's why I'm here. I like that. Yeah. What is one of your favorite ways to show intimacy with your partner?
Kissing.
We love a good snog. It's simple. It's bliss, especially when it's with the right person. Because when you find your person, it's your lips are in sync, and you just know.
It doesn't take long for some little endorphins going.
That's right, Okay, this is a fun one. What is a toxic trait that you're attracted to? Because let's be honest, I was even though
was emotionally unavailable men. I thought I had to be the cool girl, and these men love a cool girl, and I just loved for some reason I loved an unavailable, emotionally unavailable man.
Listen, I mean, as much as people say, I want somebody to see me for me, and just to be themselves. They're no, I want you to kind of just ignore me a little bit. I don't know what it is. It's I just need a little bit of rejection, and it goes a long way. It does a lot for me. Yeah.
Shows that I can be an independent woman, and I don't need anybody. It kind of reinforces that thought process that I had at that time.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. This is a hard. I want to do one more. I don't know which one I want to do. Okay. What do you think is your most dateable feature?
My most dateable feature. I'm willing to try about anything. Like, if we're gonna do, let's see, what have I didn't do for like axe throwing or ice skating. I've never been. Once I've been ice skating once. So I'm pretty willing to do and try things if somebody really enjoys it.
As a guy, I could see that being really attractive because we talked about this in the first dates episode. After this, obviously, you guys are going to go over and listen to that because there's a whole lot that goes into a first date. But what I said was, if somebody takes the time and the thought to plan a date, of course I'm going to show up and be present for it. Because if I'm not and I reject or I say this is weird, I'm not really interested in it, that's not going to encourage them to keep showing up, to expressing their creativity or just trying to make that connection with us. So the fact that you're willing to just try anything, even though you're like, this isn't really my thing, or I might not be good at it, is huge. And I would also probably find that really attractive in a partner.
And I think it also, you might end up liking something that you never thought you would. I feel like, I don't know, I'm pretty open about trying that stuff too. I've never, because I'm from Montana, I don't get to go to art galleries and do museums like we do here. So I'm like, well, I've never been, I'll go. Oh, this is actually kind of cool.
Yeah. Kind of talking about something that we talked about during the quickie. You talked about one of your biggest red flags being manipulation. We all know what red flags are. They're like automatic no's, something that when you see, it's just a behavior that we don't find acceptable and we don't really want to commit to. We're like, this is a strike for you. 3 strikes, you're out. Typically, if you're okay. So little caveat before I get into this. We all think that we are this emotionally mature individual until we're in a relationship or courting somebody. And we're like, I'm only going to tolerate X, Y, and Z. And I was like, for me, I'm a really big sports guy. So I've always had a 3-strike policy. Everybody knows after 3 strikes, you're out. But so often I see people, I was like, well, that's strike 3. They're like, but I'm going to give him one more chance. Or I kind of understand where he's coming from. Okay, well, now we're on strike 5. What's happening here? I was like, if we're just going to throw out strikes and they don't mean it, this isn't bowling. We don't want to keep getting strikes. Okay. I was like, that's not what we're looking for. If you can't stand on business and be like, hey, I said 3 strikes and I let you know, here are my boundaries. Here's what I'm looking for, what I find acceptable. Then they have to go. I was like, if you don't have enough green flags to outweigh those red ones, once again, sail away. So I think when we were talking about setting this interview up, you used a term that I haven't heard about. So I'm going to kind of let you talk about that for a little bit. But we were talking about green flags, red flags, and there was another one they used.
Beige flags.
Beige flags. All right. Tell me a little bit about that. What's a beige flag?
Beige flag's honestly more a fun. It's evolved. Okay, so it kind of depends who you ask. Sometimes beige flag started out as kind of a boring person. But it's involved with, thank you, TikTok. And it's actually kind of a thing. It's one of those quirks that people have that you kind of think are a little bit different. Could be cute, could be not so cute, but just a quirk that you have.
Okay. I like that. That's fun.
For example, I would say one of my beige flags is food doesn't get out of that fridge until it's either expired or dead, because I don't like throwing away good food.
Yeah. Okay. That
is my beige flag. My husband, he puts garbage in the sink. I don't know why, but that's what he does.
Oh, okay. All right. However he paints his dog is how he paints his dog. I'm not here to judge.
So you just have to look at it. Is it stupid? They kind of go you can go on with the beige flags of is this something that's going to really truly annoy you in life? Is it something that's going to be if you're going to fixate on it, it's not a good thing. But it's just sometimes it's it could be cute. Some are a huge fan of Taylor Swift. I'm a Swiftie. Yeah.
100%.
So there could be a little bit different things that is just something that's a little bit oh, okay, that's interesting.
So it's not quite, it's almost in between the green and red. I was it's not something I like or look for, but it's not a deal breaker. It's just one of those little interesting points.
Yeah. Like
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
I like that. Beige flags. Okay. I might have to start adding that into like the little quickie zone. Do you have any weird beige flags?
What is your beige flag? What's yours?
What's a quirky thing I do? I think, okay, so a lot of people say that this bothers them when I do it. And I don't even know when or why I started. But when I walk, I'm always like looking like up to the sky. And they're like, what are you doing? What are you looking at? There's nothing going on up there. That's where my thoughts are. They're just like up there. So I just like, my head is always like, you always just find me just like, what are you doing? I don't know. I think that might be my quirk. I'm just always up in the clouds somewhere.
That's a good quirk. I mean, that's your beige flag. I like it.
That's cute. I like that. How do you know when somebody has too many red flags? I guess is a bigger.
Well, again, that is a personal thing, right? It could be one red flag, and it depends which flag it is, right? Like, if somebody's manipulative with me, I wouldn't even want to give that a chance, and that's all dependent. Now, let's say somebody's more on it pops up here and there, not the manipulation. Let's use something maybe jealousy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can like keep an eye on it, but not sure. But then they're saying, well, I've been going to therapy for, X, Y, and Z. And then I'll be like, okay, you're doing something about it. It's not a trait you love about yourself. Then I would be able to be like, I can continue to see you as now, but know that in the back of my head that we have to kind of see how it plays out.
Right. Like if I don't really see any progress, then that I'm not really interested in continuing. That's fair.
I feel like red flags are pretty ugly. Like if they're showing their heads with somebody and that's what they want to be, if they want to be like, it's like, manipulative, or if they want to be possessive, or, all the bad ones. Like,
and I feel like there was a time period, and it still might be happening, that people were, the red flags to me didn't seem that red.
Are they like which ones? Like, do you remember?
Some people, for me, they just weren't major issues, or I don't feel like this is a super determinant. Oh, doesn't pay on the first date, red flag. Oh. Or dresses like this, red flag. I was like, I don't think those are really red. I was like, they dress functionally for whatever they do. Maybe they need some help. But I'm not going to say this is deal breakers. Like, you know what? Because here's the other side of that. I feel like if a man ever said doesn't wear enough makeup, red flag. that face right there, it'd be a riot. They'd get canceled right in that moment.
I think there's actually a new video out of girls being like, they're like, would you, is it a red flag if they own a Android instead of an iPhone? They're like, yes.
Yeah, and I was like, maybe this is what they need for work or whatever. To me, I was like, that's not red flag material. Yeah.
Untrustworthy. I'm talking jealous. I'm talking
actual character flaws.
Like the big ones. Now, everybody's gonna have their own thing, and I'm sorry if a red flag is not having an iPhone.
I was like,
might work on some evaluations.
Right. I was like, listen, that phone could be under contract. I was like, even if I wanted to change it for you, babe, I was like, I still have another 2 years. Sorry. Now, I feel like I've been driving for a while, and which is the job of any good host on a show. But this is something that I've really started to get into this season, not as a way to just take a mental break. Because like what? I was like, yeah, it's my job to come up with content, and I like doing it. But one thing that I've realized after doing this for 3 years is there's a lot of redundancy in the space. People probably ask you the same 5 or 10 questions, and you're answering those however many times you go on a show. So this new thing that I like to do is ask, what's something that you wish people would ask you that you haven't been asked yet?
Ooh, that is a good one. What have I not been asked that I wish people did? Why? Let's see. Joshua. Holy cow. I feel like I would love to share that people don't ask me is like, sometimes I'm asked like where I come from, and I have like my nursing background, but I like truly want people to understand how much I have been there in the dating world. Like, I really truly thought connection should just happen. I really thought all the things it's supposed to just, like, the timeline. I had the timeline by 30. I should have already had like probably 3 kids or something stupid like that. But I am so glad, and I am like happy that I get to share intentional dating and helping with the path. And it's so important to know ourselves. Like, I like, sometimes I wish I could just like known some of the things that I knew like now 5 years ago, because it's so important to know yourself. Like,
Yeah.
I was like a people pleaser, so boundaries were not a thing, like all the things that I could do on my end wrong, I was doing pretty good. And I'm so glad I got to get to a spot where I've gotten to the growth. I've gotten the help. I've gotten the growth, and I found somebody. And I know it's actually easier to do than what we think, if you just learn about yourself.
That is really important. As hard as it is to start your journey, and I'm not going to say the work is easy, but once you really start to find yourself, it does become easier, your journey. And there comes a point where you're like, I'm okay working and being alone right now, because I know that when I'm healthier and happier, that I'll attract the people that I want to attract. And that's one thing that I always have my clients say out loud every day. One of the affirmations is, I want to attract the people that are attracted to me, because sometimes we chase these people that we think that we should go after, but they're not really for us. Or we stay in situations where it's so one-sided, and nobody wants to be in a one-sided relationship. Like I said, we were talking about equal partnership. So in these last couple minutes, I'm going to give you some time to just talk about you and your practice and anything big you have going on. But what's special about your brand? That's really what I want to ask. What makes you different than anybody else who's out there coaching right now?
Well, I am a great cheerleader. One, I love being in your corner. I love it. I know most people do, but I do love being in your corner. And as I said before, like, I have been there, I have done that, and I have found a way that makes it easier for people. And I love sharing that. And I have a great personality. I don't like to say like act like this. I have a nice, good one, but I'm like a great I don't know. I'm like one of the best cheerleaders, but I am also like, I love the space that I can offer. And I know a lot of people say that. I guess I'm like bumbling on that. I'm pretty freaking amazing. That's why.
Listen, if you can't be your own biggest cheerleader, then how are you going to be somebody else's? So I think you're standing behind what you're saying right now. It's like, I'm a great cheerleader. Yeah, I can see it. You're cheering for yourself right now. You are pepping yourself up on a great display. And I think what you talk about is really important. Intentional dating is something that should just be the new norm, or standard part of conversation when we are dating. No matter what your intention is, have one. Mm-hmm. Whether it's, hey, I just want something brief for the winter, or while I'm on vacation, if you have a vacationing house, like you have the lifestyle for that, because I'm a little jealous. I don't. Or if you're like, hey, you know what? I've reached a point in my life where I want a partner. I don't need one, but I'd like a partner. Or, just whatever your intentions are, just have them. And so I think that it's really amazing that you're coaching people on that, and really getting them to start doing the work of thinking, what do I want? What do I desire? And what will I tolerate?
Absolutely. Even as you said, like, it's just like, even if that's what you want, if you find out, oh, maybe I'm not ready for something bigger, but I would like to have somebody who I can hang out with, and be able to, you're going to find those people. If you say that, if you're your authentic self, this is what I want and this is what I need, you're going to find the people that want the same.
Well, like I said, Melissa, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been so fun just chatting with you. Before we get out of here, where can we find you?
So I am on Instagram, M. Finley, Love Coach. I'm also, I dabble on some TikTok, but mfinleylovecoach.com is my webpage.
It's time for you to go start clicking these links. Go send some love to Melissa, just as a shout out for coming on today and helping us learn not just about these quirky beige flags, but the power of intention when we are trying to find a partner. It really does help when you guys like the episode, share it, leave a review, because it just opens the space up for more people to wander into the space and start their journey. Because even if it's not with me and it's with Melissa or any of our other amazing guests, that it's really important that people are starting to open up and just start to love themselves so they can start to love other people. So I just want to say a huge thank you once again for coming on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in, making it this far into the episode, showing some love, because I already know you wrote your review. You left your 5 stars. You did a thumbs up. You shared it with at least 2 friends. Not that I'm giving you homework, but you got homework. Share with at least 2 friends for me. And I will see all you beautiful partnered and unpartnered people next week for another episode of the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad.